So obviously you don't really know me very well, if at all. So I thought I'd just spend 30 seconds giving you a background into me, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. For the last 10 years, I've been a yoga teacher, teaching predominantly in London, but also internationally. During that time, I qualified and was practicing as a sports massage therapist. So I'm used to holding space predominantly for women. Before that, I was working in finance in the City of London, having done a degree in mathematics. So I'm quite analytically minded as well. And over the last 5 years, I've been studying non-dual Shiva Tantra and therapeutic practices and have put all of that together to create mind yoga, which is a modality working with people individually to massage out the mental, emotional knots that prevent them from surrendering fully into love, life, and success.
Mm.
And in addition to that, I have a business venture called Sex.Prayers with my partner. It's relationship consultancy, doing couples development work. So we work with couples and kind of audit the relationship to see where the blind spots are and then work through them with couples in a healthy, loving environment to allow them to succeed more in their relationship. All
Mm-hmm.
of that making sense?
It's all a bit
Any?
fabulous. It's all very aligned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I do couples too. I love saying
Ah,
when people ask me who do I work with, they said I do men, I do women, and I do couples. I do everyone.
ah.
Mm.
Must be very popular where you are. I also like your big leather chair.
Isn't it fabulous? I've been dreaming of this chair for many years. I just want to sit on a throne when I was starting up my podcast and my YouTube channel. And then, of course, it all comes like whatever you envision, it comes. I have to keep being reminded about this. So, yeah, I was doing one of my walks to my osteopath the first time I was going there, this new osteopath I was trying out. So, I'm
Mm.
going past these new streets and there's this little furniture store. So, I'm like, I suddenly need furniture because you furniture. And this is what was sitting at the front. I just sat in it, went, oh, you're going to be my new best friend. To the guy, and
I
he's like,
need my throne.
I'm
Yeah.
buying this throne. And then when I was paying him for the throne, I saw these other chairs. Like I've just got velvet and leather in my house because I'm a lush. In the erotic blueprints, I am a shapeshifter, but the essential is very, very high for me. Always got to have silk,
Mm.
fashion, and jewels. And when I talk and I work
Nice.
and I'm writing and I'm in front of the computer a lot, I've always got to have my dates with almond butter and like everything's beautiful. We don't just get a chip. It's like, okay, we're in a beautiful bowl and everything's got to be gorgeous and yummy.
I like that. I think you'd probably get on with my partner quite well.
She essential.
She's essential embodiment
Mhm.
individual. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm sure you guys would have good conversations. Um, but yes, thank you, firstly, for being open to joining me for this conversation. I appreciate your time and
Mm.
your willingness. And I've been very fortunate in the conversations that I've had today that the women that I've spoken with have been so trusting and so open in their shares. And obviously, I have no idea what it is that you're going to share and bring up. And I just wanted to say outright and explicitly that my role today in our conversation is not to therapize or resolve any
Mm.
mental emotional knots that do present themselves. If that's something we want to explore another time, by all means. Today, though, my intention is simply to be curious and to hear from you and to learn from you and
Mm.
to create a container in which you feel safe to express and explore anything you want to on the topic of trust and safety. And you feel safe right there, of course, in your throne with your feather. You're feeling safe?
I feel really safe. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
There's one thing I just want to bring up because I'm conscious of it that you might notice.
Yeah.
I've got 3-degree burns on my fingers here.
Oh gosh.
And yeah, so I just want to say, because I use my hands a lot, and it's just that I don't have paint or it's not blood or anything. It's just, molecular hydrogen is working its wonder. And
Okay,
yeah, it's not painful or anything. But yeah, I just
that's
know
good.
in the screen these colors are going to come up on my other, anointing my beautiful hands with this like.
I thought they were just decorative.
I know, just like decorative painting, going, oh, this is 3 shades of red.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I'm glad that you felt safe enough to say that. Hmm. I'm curious then. You say you feel safe. You feel safe there in your chair with your throne and your feather. And what is it that lets you know that you are safe right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
being in my apartment, um,
Mm.
I have my dog right there. Although she's going to be no help.
God,
She'll
guardian.
touch me. Yeah, I've got my 2 Dalmatians here. Pit bulls on the side of the throne. What do I feel safe? It's been a long journey to be safe in my body. So I feel
Hmm.
really grounded and confident in my body. I feel grounded and confident. I do have to say, we were just talking before about Puerto Vallarta, living in this city. I'm very
Mm.
safe. It is, and this is what a lot of us women speak about. It's a gay man's town.
Is
Uh,
it really?
yeah, which means you walk down the street and only one third. You only have to be concerned about one third of the men in
One
this.
one
Like,
in every three men is
yeah, like where are they? How close are they? Like you look in the street, it's like, okay, they're of no, that is of no issue to me. That is of no issue to me. They're of no issue to me. Do you mean it's like I can walk past them without bracing for anything?
can
That is something we need to really speak deeply about.
can you please?
Yeah,
I'm so curious. I'm so glad
yeah.
that you've brought that up. It sounds like that has been your experience, or it's at least currently one third of your experience, this sense
Mm.
of needing to feel braced or
I think
concerned.
it's interesting how, for women, it's a consistent, well, the women, I guess the life that I've led and women that I speak to, we are constantly navigating, even if it's, when I say unconscious, we've always learned to navigate.
Mm,
You're always told, like, we're not, when we're younger, I mean, we have to create this freedom to be free to wear whatever we want. And that is a constant navigation because if you just wear whatever you want and say it's free flowing and it's loose and you happen to bend down your shirt and your breasts come out, your breasts are this state of danger, conversation, desire. And it's really interesting. I noticed this the other
mm.
day. Yesterday, actually, I was walking down. It was a minute. It was so effing hot, and I'm about to do an hour walk. I've got bags of plates and bowls I have to return after this retreat we've just had, and I'm walking down, and I watched. It was really intriguing where I noticed where my brain went because there was a guy standing there waiting for an Uber. He's got a shirt on and he's got his shorts on and no shirt, and he's standing up there with no shirt on. I'm like, yeah, yeah, there is no problem you standing with no shirt because your breasts and your nipples are not deemed a public agenda. And it's just like if
Mm.
I was to do that, it's so effing hot. If I was to stand there in a bikini top or no bikini top and just a pair of shorts, then I would be heckled. I would now then also be dangerous with all the women in the things, like all of the women in the street would then have an opinion. Like I'm
Oh wow.
opinionated. Everything I do as a
Mm.
woman is opinionated. I can't talk. Opinionated. Whereas a man can stand there freely because he's hot, so he takes his shirt off. We're just going, I just got to keep these fucking clothes on and sweat through it. Because my breasts, apparently, even though they give life, the womb that I carry births, every woman has a womb and it births the effing nation. Hello. We're all here because of it. But who I am as a woman, my genitalia, my womb, and my breasts, my body parts are demonized, vilified, and a public fodder. whereas yours aren't. Just
Mm.
down the street. And we are navigating this every single day. So when you're talking about safety, like was even the other day, yesterday, so this is all, no, 2 days ago, I went, oh, it's only a day, I don't need to worry. I was leaving a cafe and coming back up the street. So the first thing I do is get my keys out of my hand, get my keys out of my bag, even though I'm 3 blocks away, because I'm about to
Mm.
walk home. And I went, why do I do that in the middle of the day? It's because I have this group of women from the retreat. I'm coming home late at night every night after the restaurants, after the dinner. And if you walk in the streets, always, I've never experienced danger here. I've never had anyone follow me home.
Mm-hmm.
But as a woman, you don't walk in the street without something in your hand, just in case, and I'm
Is
just
that
thinking,
because of that area being inherently unsafe, or is that just years of conditioning?
when you say conditioning, it's the world we live in. Like women are not, my body's smaller, my body mass is smaller. If I'm coming home late at night, 11, 12 at night, you don't know who's been watching for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if I'm doing that often.
How do
Um,
you know to have all of these thoughts?
because as a woman in the street, I'm not protected. Like especially if I'm wearing high heels and stuff, like it's, that whole thing too is like wearing earphones or being on your phone in the street. It's like you don't know who's behind you. Like when I'm a woman walking in the street and I can hear someone behind me, I turn and I always step aside, you know, especially if a guy's
Has
walking really close to me. It's like I step
Sure.
aside and move
So
away.
has it been your experience that you've been attacked or you've had a
In
dangerous exchange?
I've had a few experiences. I'm not saying they happen every week, every month, every year. I have had experience that keeps me vigilant, but speak to women like in the crowds of women, groups of women, we will get,
Hmm.
we get, there's always stories of, even like I mean, to say it out loud, it's like even last year, a friend of mine was telling me that her partner had to go in, like it was late at night, it's 11 o'clock. It's like 11 o'clock at night, a girl had come across the bridge. Two guys grabbed her, pulled her down. They were trying to obviously take her clothes off and rape her. And a security guard on the other side was just standing there watching,
Hmm.
and so then this, her husband came along and so he had to go in and get stones and get her out. And he's just looking around. There's two guys doing it. So the thing, what,
Gosh,
and
this
this
is where
story,
you are?
yeah, it's in Australia, it's in Sydney, it's everywhere. I've lived in Sydney, I've
Wow.
lived in London. In London, I've had a car pull up right next to me, and the door opened to grab me. And it's because because I was really, I
Really?
was watching what was happening. It's just like that feels really strange. It happens all the time everywhere. Like it happens all the time everywhere, even on the micro level, being whistled at. Like 2 weeks ago, I was walking along the Malacon, middle of the 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the day. I've got my eggs. Like we're always commented on. So I walk fast. It's also part of my fitness regime. Like I'm over 50, I keep fit, which means I keep moving. So I don't stroll because it's like not doing anything for my heart rate. So I'm like, okay, I have an hour to go and get the eggs and get back because I go and get organic eggs. And the last 3 times I've done it, I'm commented on. So you see a man racing down the street like he's walking, no one says a fucking thing. No one says, oh, slow down. Oh, where are you going in such a rush? It gets said to us all the fucking time. Every time
Hmm.
I'm racing somewhere, I'm walking, power walking. It is public fodder to comment on me. How I'm walking, why am I walking so fast? I need to slow down and I shouldn't do that. The last thing that got said to me, oh, you're too pretty to be walking fast. So then often you just ignore that. You're always, and if you're whistled at, and this will often what happens if you get whistled at. This is not just Mexico. This is Sydney. This is Vancouver. This is San Jose. This is, well, it's not Belgium because no one speaks to you. Everyone's grumpy. I'm just saying. I'm looking at all the cities I've been in recently.
Yeah.
The only city I've really enjoyed it because they're so kind and soft is Havana, which I'm going off to again in November. Havana's just so open and sweet. They don't like. They want to just make you safe. It's really
Hmm.
beautiful. I haven't been there for 5 years, so things could have changed. But so the last time No, that last time, a couple of days ago, I got commented on because I was walking fast and I was too pretty to walk fast. When I was coming back
So
with
someone
orgasm,
just walk, someone you were walking past
you
just said
just
that to
sound
you?
so like surprised by this. Yes, fucking strangers in the public, men in general. In general,
Okay.
there's a generality that, oh, that the woman is public fodder. When I say public fodder is to be commented on, to be heckled, to be so commented on and heckled, to be yeah. So 3 weeks ago I was coming home with the eggs, and I've got to get home. I've got to get on with the client, and before I get on with the client, I just want to sit for 10 minutes. So I'm coming home, and this one guy said, "Why are you walking so fast? And where are you going?" And then, hey, I'm saying hello to you. I turned around. I was so exhausted and I was hot, and I turned around. I said something to him. And so then, and like trying to be half polite because we need to be polite when we're being foddered. So then trying to be half polite. It's like it's none of your business. So
So he was chatting
then
you
he
up.
gets narky. Who the fuck do you think you are? And I turned. I said, "Excuse me." There's all men standing around watching. They don't come to your like they. I'm talking like when I say they and
Mm.
men, it is not every man. I have incredible fucking men in my life, but men are not commented on as they go around their daily life. They are not told what to do
Okay.
as they go in their daily life. This is what women deal with from the moment she grows breasts. The moment she grows breasts, and if she doesn't grow breasts in the right amount of time, that's also commented on. Ooh, just,
How
ooh.
did that make you feel then? I mean, it sounds like
You
he
tell I'm
may
annoyed,
have been
annoyed.
his attempt at trying to chat you up. I don't know. Obviously, that's
But this is the thing. And this is what it's like when men whistle out of a car. We women talk about it all the time. You like, especially if we're in a group of women and someone comes in and she looks really like flustered and holy fuck, and it's like, okay, so what's happened? Yeah, da, 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 da. And it always makes us laugh. It's like if a man whistles out of the car, like, hey, baby, what are they really expecting? Oh my God. Oh, look, there's 3 of you guys in a car. This is really amazing. Yeah, hi, baby. Shall I hop in? What the fuck do you think's going to happen? So it's like straight away, the systems, am I safe? Because if there's two men
okay.
in a car and they whistle
Right.
out,
Yeah.
or even one guy in a car,
Hmm.
bigger, he's stronger just through muscle mass. He's whistling, the car's slowed down. It's like, am I about to get pulled in? Who's around?
So that's a genuine concern.
Yeah, it's a fucking genuine concern. A man with a car slowing down,
Hmm.
taking notice of you,
Hmm.
got flip flops on or high heels on, you've got a dress on, you're in a part of town that like you don't have anyone with you. This is why, can I tell you the most sexiest, exquisite thing a man can ever do, whether it's a brother, whether it's a friend, whether it's an uncle, whether it's a father, whether it's a lover or a partner, or you're on your first date?
Hmm.
Never, ever allow the woman that you're with to walk on the side of the walkway next to the traffic.
Hmm.
You always pull her in. I have decided to be in long-term relationships in the first date because the first time I experienced that was in Vancouver, but with a Mexican man. I've received backlash from Western guys when I've asked, when I've moved them, what do I do that for? You're all meant to be around equal rights. I'm just like, I
But
decided to be, this man was 15 years younger than me, and I went on this date. He's Mexican. On our very first date, we it was a day date. So we'd been at his house. So he was taking me back to the train. I remember we came out down his steps. I walked out because he, locked the door behind me. So I was in front of him. I walked out. As soon as he got onto the pathway, he just grabbed me and moved me. He said, "This is
hmm.
where you walk, honey." And I'm like, you just have yes to anything right now. Because I felt so cared for and taken care of. Like he's taking notice. Yeah, you
Well,
don't walk against the women shouldn't walk near the traffic. We can get
well,
pulled.
it's interesting that you say that. as a man who grew up in London, that is something seldom on my mind. So you sharing it and bringing awareness to it, okay, now I can make the cognitive um, link as to why it's important and the encouragement for my unconscious mind to turn that into conscious action. But having not known that that's, that's not something I saw or really heard about in London compared to somewhere maybe like Mexico where it's a bit more typical, maybe. I don't know. Um, or perhaps in this part of the world, the thought just hadn't occurred to me as much. So I'm grateful for you in highlighting it. Because without knowing that, it's and without a woman sharing it, it's practically impossible to know that, for me at least, that's their inner monologue. Their um that's their somatic experience that's occurring at that moment. For me, it's like, oh, we're just walking down the street. But for you, it's clearly very, very different. And I imagine that's true for a lot of women. So thank you for highlighting an ignorance.
That act, I mean, obviously, not obviously, the 99.9% of the time, if you're walking in the street with a man, you would not be abducted or taken. And it's interesting that you're talking about in London and maybe more in Mexico. I have never felt safe in London. When I lived in Vancouver with my son for 4 months, the amount of women that went missing. Like, I want to
Really?
also pull apart this veil that the West is safe for women. The kidnapping, the sex trafficking, you just like start speaking. Like, to understand that a lot of what happens down in Mexico feeds the North, doesn't stay here, it feeds the North. Yeah, like if we're going to get really real about a lot of these issues around kidnapping, child slavery, sex slavery. When I lived in Vancouver, my son and I've come out of Costa Rica where I lived in the jungle. So we went and we're in the Western sort of community type stuff. So there wasn't a lot of stuff. When we're looking at sexual abuse and molestation, it's 80% known by, we're not looking at strangers, we're looking at men in the family, neighbors. So when we're looking at perpetrators, the danger towards women, women are not pulling men into cars. Women are not, finding men in alleyways and sexually assaulting them. So yes, there's dangerous women. Yes, I raised a boy in Mexico. He was also in danger. In Vancouver, he was also in danger as a young boy. I'm not saying it's just women, but it's generally more women. Like as a teenage boy in the streets, it's not just women, but it's men perpetrating against men and men perpetrating against women. So when, as a woman in the world, half of the population is potential danger. I don't walk around thinking every man's dangerous. One thing I learned years ago through working with Alison Armstrong. So I also want to apologize. I know my voice was like, yeah, yes, because it's so frustrating. Yes, but it's also so fucking frustrating that there's not an understanding of what we fucking walk through from the moment we grow breasts, or even before then, how we're silenced as girls.
That's partly why I'm having these conversations.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Growing up, the religion's the worst. And when anyone says I'm religious, it's like, well, now I'm more fucking scared of you. Every religion that I've ever come across, every sector of Christianity seems to be worse than the other. It's never the man's fault. I've never been in a church. I've never been in Sunday school. I've never been in a group of religious people that really hold an exquisite space for boys to fucking look after their energy. It's always the girl's fault. she was wearing this, she was doing this, she shouldn't have been a mask. Well, look at her. What did she expect? She's playing sport with all the boys. There is never a conversation that I've been privy of. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying everyone in religion is, you know, on that realm. But boys are not held accountable for their sexual energy. Boys also don't have rites of passage. Boys are also required to sit in school from the age of 5, which their bodies are not made for. And boys' nervous system, we fuck over our boys from the moment they're born as well. And by putting boys into the
Ah,
school system at the age of 5 is horrific. So now we're deeming that there's something wrong with them. We're also clamping down their energy. So they have all of this innate energy. There's all of these scientific studies that show that the makeup, the neurotransmittic makeup, I'm not a science person, but I love science. What's going on in the nervous system of a girl at the age of 5 is completely opposite to what's happening in a boy's nervous system at the age of 5. So we place them both into the same arena. Boys need to be running outside. Also, we're raising boys in apartments right now, and boys like in strollers clamped in, and they're not allowed to run, and they're not allowed to ride their bikes fast, and they're not allowed to climb trees. I mean, like now there's a whole thing which people don't even let the boys climb trees.
what
So
do you
now
think's the impact of that? How do you think that
they're so
presents?
caged and domesticated, and where is it going to go? It doesn't just disappear into
Where
vacancy.
does it go?
It's like we look at the high suicide rates of men, the high addiction rates of men compared to women. We're also looking at a man's brain is not developed to the same to a man doesn't have, when I say not developed, because we also use this languaging, it's not developed. The developmentation of a male brain takes longer because there's more stuff going on until they're 24. Boys, I'm watching my son go through this. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? You've got to get a job. You've got to get a degree. You've got to make, from 18 to 24 is the worst time for young men to be sitting. From the age of 5 to 24 is the worst time for men to be sitting. Their pelvic, their energy that gets stuck in the pelvis, they need to be moving, they need to be throwing, they need to be like a man's body needs more movement than they actually get nowadays. Boys are told they're wrong. Boys are told everything's their fault. Have you ever been in a household with a young boy and a young girl being raised? It's always the boy's fault. And what we don't notice about the boys, and I saw this all the time with because I had a wild boy and I kept him out of school as much as possible, and then we didn't do schooling, and he was raised in the jungle. But I would see it with, it's also how girls are raised. Girls have our own stuff, yeah. But what will happen with the young boy often, boys will put up with a lot of stuff until not. And it's that not moment that is vilified to the boy, not the pushing and the pushing and the pushing and the pushing. Your systems are single focused, moving forward. Your systems are not designed for all of the feminine fucking energy that comes to you because you've got bigger fish to fry out there. But when you're put into a school where you're just told at, sit down, do this, that feminine energy, girls. I mean, look at the way that I'm talking. Like, I'm really comfortable with this. I can go on and on and on and on and on for this 2-3 hours, and my oxytocin will not tap out. I'm actually,
Right.
things, but yours will. If you and I had a conversation like this, like by the time we get to the hour, you're going to be like, not because it's like it is too much consistently.
Right.
But boys
Yeah.
are put into that. Like women need to be with women. Our oxytocin levels reboot around women. We feed, our systems feed off this. Yours gets to a point where it taps because your testosterone is low. So we're raising our boys with low testosterone straight away. So I will get to adulthood in a moment. Young boys. So this is the quintessential event. A boy's in a sandpit at school, 4 years of age, 5 years of age. He's minding his own fucking business. He's in his own space. Maybe he's with other boys. They don't need to do much talking. They've got the trucks. They're moving. They've got sand. They're lifting shit. They're dropping over here. They're moving they want to get out the tree. They want to climb the tree. They're told they're not allowed to be in the tree. They're not allowed to do this and not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do anything. They have to sit and be contained to be safe. So they're sitting, and a young boy,
To
and
be
I watch.
safe.
Well, like we deem that the world's not safe. So we deem that if a boy climbs a tree, he might fall out.
Mm.
You drive a car, you might have an accident. Don't drive
Okay.
ever. Do you know what I mean? It's like boys are not taught to be comfortable in their body. So we clamp them down. Boys are very girls also. We're very capable humans in our body.
So it sounds like we're uh there's something there that for me about this element of safety and over over um over safing. That's not the word. It's not a word at all. But
Protection.
over thank you. That's the word. Overprotecting and um
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not allowing people to experience safety. It's kind of like artificial safety, and so there's and perhaps a lack of true understanding of what safety is in the body. Is
Yeah,
that
most definitely. So where this is important for boys that grow up to men that are completely domesticated and clamped down and like their anger, when people talk about their anger issues and the rage issues, is that this is one part of it. It's like boys need to release stress and move. They move it like a boy will go and throw a rock, or he'll just like run and walk off and need to be on his own. This is another thing. Men need a lot more space than they claim. Men need the space of no demand. And I can tell you,
I
most men in
recognize that.
relationships with kids will never, they don't get the no space, they don't take it. I see it with my
Mm.
clients. It doesn't matter. It's like it does matter because now everything becomes covert because they don't have their space of no demand. I
In
just want to come
partnership
back to the
too.
pattern.
In partnership too.
Oh yeah. I mean, just when you just the fact that man woman lives in a house all the time and eats every meal together is really overwhelming for me. It's like
Really?
I'm like there's 365 days in the year. We're gonna have 365 breakfasts together. That's a lot. Oh, we're
It,
gonna have dinner
it,
together again as well. Oh, that's a lot. Like we don't have it. Like it's always you. It's always them. Like we place the community's need onto our partner. We're not
mm.
designed. Anyway, we'll get into that in a moment because I want to finish this because it's really important of why. Oh, shivers. There we go. Back on. It's really important to understand where a lot of this anger and safety, lack of safety, when you've got groups of men and men going towards the feminine. There's so many layers. We're never going to get through this in an hour. Probably won't even get through it in a year. Yeah.
It's okay.
I just want to bring attention. There's
Mm.
always two sides to the story because yes, I'm not safe in the world like you are. I'm I'm not safe in the world like my son is. My son's 18. You know, I would go anywhere with him. Like I put him into martial arts, jujitsu. Like he's the guy. My son is the guy that I walk through any city with. A lot of my friends, male friends, I wouldn't walk through the city with. They haven't done martial arts. They don't know how to, but they don't have that protective thing. They wouldn't know what to do
Mm.
because they also not being raised to be in the world. They've been raised to sit in front of us. They've been raised to take orders. So men are being raised to be really fucking dangerous. Men need to be, what is it? Is it dangerous or danger? I've got to work out. I wrote it yesterday in an email actually. You want men to be a danger. No, you want men to be dangerous, not a danger to you.
Yeah.
So men are being raised to be a danger because they don't have skills to maneuver. They don't have skills to actually look. You're designed to hunt. You can walk through, your system is designed to be single focused through a jungle, tracking down a big animal, no food, no water, 3 days, and you will stay single focused. You're silent and you hone in. We collect information. So coming back to the
Mm.
young boy, this is where a lot of stuff starts. When a young boy who'll be in the sand pit, he's got his truck, he's minding his own business. Little Jenny comes along, is like, can I play with you? And he says, no. Simple answer, no, you can't play with me. And he may not even answer. It's like, no, he's in his space. Leave him alone. We
Mm.
don't know what he's processing. We don't, maybe just being told he's not allowed to climb the tree and he's feeling really fucking frustrated. So he's just like, no, come on, you need to share. No. I love it when I see parents telling their children to share and say, give me your phone. What? I said, give me your phone. I'm like, what? It's my phone. I went, yeah, well, it's your son's truck. Well, they need to learn to share. So, okay, prove it. You've got to show that you're sharing. Give me your fucking phone. They won't. So I find all of this. So like, so here's the boy, little Tommy's on, he's got his truck, and the girl will push and push and push and push and push and push, which is not noticed. She'll cry, Tommy won't share, da, 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 da. And she'll try to grab the truck, or she'll touch him, she'll be on him. He'll push her to get her away. This is one thing to understand. Men will do something first. Boys will do something. It's like, get out of space, because I can go there. I need you out of my space. You're not listening to me. You haven't respected my no. Very clear, simple no. Who gets in trouble when he hits her? He does. The half hour that pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and no, never gets fucking considered. I shouldn't say never. It's not a good thing to say never. So the reason I want to bring that story in is when we're looking at a world that is dangerous for women to live in as opposed to men, it's getting very dangerous for men as well, is because we have no idea how to raise our boys. We've taken out rites of passage. We've emasculated men left, right, and center. We have, women we have our own stuff of what we're doing to women, yes, but it can't be one or the other. We don't know how to raise humans. We're not raising humans, we're raising robots. And we're expecting these robots to fucking behave in a very domesticated, watered down, our whole world is unsafe really when we look at it, arena. And so if we're looking at, then we've got groups of single men. This is one thing about Europe that really, really showed up. And I was, why? Because I went to Belgium last year to surprise my son. I love that. He gets driven to Amsterdam to have coffee with his dad's friends for the morning, which is really gross. He's like, why do I have to come? And there I am sitting in that, one of my best moments of my life. But when we're looking at immigration and we're looking at groups of people needing to move around the world, like I'm one of them, to go and work elsewhere, it's generally men that are moving, if we're looking from third world countries or Eastern Europe, to go somewhere to work. The women are left behind, the mothers, the daughters, the wives. If they're going to send one person, they're going to send the man in a family. Yeah. So then you've got all of these families doing that, and all of these situations. I mean, the father of my child, that was his father's story. He was the elder son, so he got sent to Belgium to work to send money back. So there's one. So you have these groups of single men that are dealing with racism, that don't get paid properly, that have language issues. So then there's all of the not belonging. If you do not feel loved, you don't feel like you'll belong, then you're not safe. If we're going to go safety, we've got to even look at safety in a relationship to speak the truth, safety in our work environment, safety everywhere. Like, this is what the primal brain is always tracking. So groups of men.
That safety is the ability to express oneself.
If we're looking at the primal brain, safety means I'm not going to die. That's all it means. Nothing to do with happiness, nothing to do with love at all. Because the primal brain, if we're going to track ourselves to happiness and love, we're going to fucking die, because we're going to make decisions on love and happiness. It's like, boom, you're dead. As far as the primal brain goes,
Okay, so it's about preservation.
Yeah, preservation of life. So that's what the primal brain is always tracking.
So then, would you say some actions of perhaps both men and women coming from a place of believing this is what needs to be done to be able to maintain preservation and to be able to
actually
alive?
That's a really great, that's tethering that back to, like, when you're asking me, I've dealt with a lot of heckling in my life. Like, have you ever walked past a construction site full of 34 men all up in construction site? Do you walk past that?
I'm sure I have, but it hasn't left an impression.
It doesn't even ring a bell whether you're walking past one or not, yeah?
No.
Yeah, ask a woman what it's like to walk past a construction site. Well, you can ask me what it's like to walk past a construction site.
What's it like?
everyone has a fucking opinion on you. And it's not one man, it's two men, it's three men. Then if you tell them to shut up, it's like, yeah, well, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, we have no say in these spaces.
Why do you think that is?
Why do you think we have no say?
What's created that?
Why men, what part? Why men believe that they can just leer
All
and
of it.
say
Yeah.
what they
Like
want?
why
Yeah, it's
that's
interesting.
acceptable, and then
Why is it acceptable? Because men don't hold other men accountable. That's a part of it. Men don't hold other men accountable.
and the reason for that.
Uh, So it's a really good question, and I often ponder this. I've had these conversations with my son because I've witnessed him raise himself in ways that are very, like, for me, like, I'm waiting till he's 24. So I get to witness in my house that even though I've raised him as a solo mama, um, understanding rites of passage, how fucking important that is, understanding how having him in school was probably one of the worst things for his development that I could have ever done, took him out of school. So even though I've done all of this stuff, still
Mm.
witnessing his innate nature. His innate nature. I
What
used
is
to,
that?
yeah. So I used to be a vegan. I used to be a raw foodist, all of these things. And I'm only saying that because he was raised in an environment of lots of women and all of this stuff, anti-cruelty to animals. We're living in the jungle, collecting our own food a lot of the times. He always caught snakes, so he loved, and he always had animals. Like, we're living in Indonesia, he always had a pet chicken, a pet kitten, a pet this, which was just insane. And he used to cry if a grasshopper got stepped on. He reaches the age of, just got to do some backtracking, 12, 11, 12, 11 he was, because yes, 11, 12, and he comes to me, the whole Queen's Code. Mum, I'd like to have a conversation with you. Take about 20 minutes. There's something I really want to share with you. And I'd like to have that conversation in the next 2 days. It's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I said, I can do that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down and he goes, I've given this a lot of thought. And I know it's something really true for me. He said, but I want a gun and I want to start hunting.
Mm.
I'm like, wow. Hadn't been around anyway. He wasn't raised with my father in Australia who hunts and all of this stuff. He didn't have any of that around him. He was raised with
Where
women.
did where did that come from then?
His own innate nature. He wanted to start hunting. He was always barefoot in the jungle. He used to work for people, like his machete and stuff. He was in his body. So, and I get, he had to go on for, I said, okay, first of all, I won't spend money on that. But if you have a conversation with your father and he's willing to finance it, that's between you two. The second thing is, if that is a yes, then you need to find someone that I then approve of that will take the responsibility of teaching you how to use it, how not to use it, all of that stuff. And I need to approve of that person because I want to go and have a conversation. The third rule was, whatever you kill, you must eat. So,
May I ask a question?
yeah.
Thank you. What were his male influences at the time? Because I mean,
Mm.
even the concept of a gun comes from somewhere. That's not an internal. Um,
Well,
it's
it was
not
a
from an unconscious place. It's not a
yeah.
primal thing. It's an external influence.
Well, he was always fascinated by knives. He was using knives at the age of 3.
Mm.
He liked knives, so he always had knives. He was always whittling. He was always using his hands.
Mm.
So in our arena, when I say arena, like the representation of hunting wasn't men going out with, spears. He used to make his own spears. He used to make his own bows and arrows from a very young age, 4, 5. He was using a machete before he was 5, opening coconuts.
This
Um,
is external influence, though, of course, because no one's built with the innate understanding of making a bow and arrow. It comes from it's not that archetypal.
so he had lots of men, like when he had so much more than his father. He had because I raised him out of the system, he was always doing stuff. Like he made his own skateboard, like with a guy.
Mm.
He was taught to fish. He was taught to, they went and did things in nature. They were always doing things in nature. So if we look at nature, nature feeds off itself. So I know
Mhm.
what you're saying, yet when I witnessed this boy, it's like he would go and make things to catch the fish in the pond. Like with one time we had no food. Like I had no money and no food. We were deported from the States and we landed in Costa Rica. And I said to him, I said, babe, I really don't know how we're going to get through this month. I said, I have enough for about a pineapple a day, which is not good for you because it's just free. You're a growing boy. I said, I don't know how this is going to work, so let's just be curious. And he's like, okay. He comes back and he had made a bottle to catch fish because he would sit and watch it. Sat and watched nature his whole life. He was always in nature.
Mm.
So he'd watched we were on this beach living in a tent, and he watched the rock pools, so the high tide and the low tide. He is 8, just so you know, at this time. He's 8. So he's watching the shores come down, like, we're in this situation. And he came back, he said, oh, look, I've made this because there's all of these little fish down there. If I can catch the fish, I'm going to ask the guy over there who's got a stove if I can cook it on his stove. I'm like, okay. Every day he went down and caught these little fish and he
Mm.
would cook them. And that's what he would eat. And then I would get we'd ask for coconuts off the tree. And so we had coconut water, coconut meat. He'd eat fish. At that time, I wasn't eating meat. I'd have a pineapple, bit of seaweed. That was it. We did that for about a month. So he's 8. And then we go further in Costa Rica. And so there's lakes. And so he would go and do stuff. And he was always barefoot on the ground, connected to the
Mhm.
earth, connected to the system. He never caught stuff and threw it away. He used it all. Our neighbor had cats at one stage, then we got a cat. And he used to go and get their food. And when he started hunting, he would get our dog. We had her by then. He would shoot. He didn't last, like, killing animals didn't last long for him, like that way. They got a
Right.
time because he killed it. And also for him, what he went through, he was asked to to shoot the birds that were eating all of the fruit on these trees from this guy that refused to do it, outsourced it to the kid. And he shot a green parrot once and it ripped him apart. And we sat there and he prayed over it. And I said, you still need to eat the bird, my love. And
Mm.
he stopped hunting after that with a gun.
Mm.
But yeah.
So you brought up your son in relation to this idea of accountability.
Yes, thank you. The tangents. So men holding each other accountable. That's what I said. Like when I got heckled in the street the other day, and you could see I was upset. No man told the other guy to stop. Men are
What
raised.
what do you
Sorry,
think that was?
I have no idea. Men are not. Okay, I'm going to bring into this of what someone said the other day. I've just finished a retreat, and the last day was the sacred masculine, all about presence, container, safety. So we did shibari rope tying, and then I held a 4-hour ritual, a sacred masculine ritual. I had a friend, someone I know who agreed to come in. So there was 5 parts to this ritual. One part, so the very first part was all the women wrote on a piece of paper what they loved about men, what we adore and love and receive from the masculine. Because we couldn't fucking live in this world without you, just know that. So then we wrote what we need from men. And he was sitting in a throne, not this one, another one. Thrones all of my life. And we all sort of placed it at his feet. And then we went through a communication container that they got to witness love, fears, and desires. Because that's another thing around sex and intimacy that, like space is penetrated, our body is penetrated, but there's not a safety container set up. We can get to that in a moment. But then he was sat in a throne again, and he was naked on the throne, and we did a puja. And I actually had it was just going to be me doing the puja, but then I just looked around and I sort of had this download like, why don't all the women do it? So I asked him and he's like, yes. I was like, and all the
Oh,
women
okay
were like,
then.
yes. So he's sitting naked on a puja and he's sitting there, in deep presence of himself. And this is with a man who's never experienced anything like this. I actually, when I'm doing group sessions, I think it's really important to have someone representing the masculine that isn't tantric, that hasn't walked through this, so women can also witness that you can do this for any man, and you can support a man to raise his sexual energy up his spine. It doesn't need to be a tantric guru or someone who's studied Taoism. It's actually the simplicity of breath and movement and attention, and just so I like to demonstrating that. So here's this dear friend of mine who's sitting on the end of his throne, and every woman one by one would sit in front of him and just pray to the masculine through him, because a man's cock is his power. It's his power, and that's what we've also done to men. So this is getting to why don't men, because we're going to get to the chaos of the feminine. This comes from Alison Armstrong. We emasculate circumcision. The hugest violence we do to boys is circumcision. Straight away, 48 hours fucking old, and we cut off the end of their cock, which we sever their heart. So if we're going to get into the different layers, this is one layer. Circumcised men have their heart energy severed, and also the mother wound. There's a mother wound. 9 months. Hopefully, when they come out, they're suckled and they're sleeping on the heartbeat because they've just come out. How we're also raising children in cribs and separate rooms and all of this stuff, and boys don't get picked up and cuddled as much as girls do. So they are required to self-soothe from a very fucking age. They're told to deal with it. They're told to suck it up. They're told to deal with pain from a very young age. In the Australian culture, you will see men all the time telling their 2-year-old boys to man up. So boys are bullied into like, you're not allowed to have your emotions. You're not allowed to hurt. You've got to fucking suck it up. No one's coming to save you at the age of 2 and onwards. So there's one wound. If they're circumcised, so how can you trust a woman after that? You've been in her arms for 48 hours, all of this stuff. You're handed to a stranger. He cuts your end of your penis off, exposes now your penis for the rest of your life, which is meant to be covered. So we're even looking at the dynamics of that. You're exposed, deal with it. The heart meridian that runs through there. It's your pineal gland. Your third eye, your seer, completely cut. You hand it back to the mother. They never hand it to the father. They hand it back to the mother. It's just like, what happened to, like, how did you let that happen to me? Now you're trying to control. Now you want to hold me. All of that. So then also too, a man is numb. This is where conscious unpounding comes, and this is where the pain of the cervix comes from. Much of circumcised penises, because they're numb compared to your anus. A circumcised man's anus has more pleasurable nerve endings in it than the end of his penis now. So we can kill these are the layers, yeah. So now, so how is it getting from that young boy accountability? Oh, so here's it. So we are praying all to men through the whole masculine, through him, and we're pouring liquid. Each one balms him with liquids, cacao, oil, water, milk, like the puja. So he has woman after woman coming in front of him. Then we go through to other parts of the ritual. And at the end, we read to him what we need, what we love, and then what we need from the masculine. But before we read all of ours out, we asked him, what do you love about women and what do you need from women? And the two major things that he said, and it was really beautiful actually what the example he brought up, but the two major things he said is we need women to be our friends. And we need women to stop judging us. And so the conversation went further when he sat and he was listening to all of ours. And he sat there and he says, yeah, men need to grow the fuck up. He said, we need to grow the fuck up. He said, men really need to be held accountable to grow up. And so as the conversation went further, it's like he's 32 and he really brought that. It's like up until the age of 24, like it's just like feels like still a boy, but he's required to know everything and do everything. The brain develops around 24. And then 24 to 28, 29, you're trying to find things out. The pressure on boys and men to have their shit sorted out in their 20s is really immense.
Mm.
And it's
I,
unfair.
I would even go further and say beyond that, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the older you become, the more there's an expectation of having it figured out,
You should have had
and
it figured out by now.
the growing up, as you put it, and the expectation then perhaps takes away a safe space in order to actually do that. And it's kind of a snake biting its own tail scenario. Well, how am I supposed to grow up if I don't feel safe enough to make mistakes? But you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to get everything right, so don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a tricky space to find as well.
It's a very tricky space to find. And this brings me back to like continuously, it's not bringing back, it's a spiral. The lone wolfness of the masculine. So when you're this, you need to sort it out. Like I'm witnessing with my son now. He's got to sort it out on his own. He's got to work it out on his own. Like he's really taking that on. Because our primal nature is to be in community. So I just want to bring attention to this concept of polyamory. It's like most people say they're polyamorous, but they're polysexual. They're
Yeah.
fucking, but they're not having all it, they're not having their food security met by 5 men. They're not having, a man's not having all of his 5 lovers looking after his 2 children with one of his lovers. Like that's
Right.
polyamory. Polyamory is all of our needs are met by community. So man, yes, you would go out and hunt, but maybe there'd be 3 or 4 men that you're doing the hunt with. So
Mm.
you are providing for the community with others. If you go out in a canoe, maybe you would build the canoe on your own, maybe that's your genius, but you're not alone looking after your partner and children. All men in a community, men hunt to feed all children. In a community, when we look at where our primal brain, where we come from as humans, which I know we're not going to be living that right now, but this is what we need to truly understand. Men are the only community stuff they have when they're young is sports, and that's a competition. You're gonna lose. And then you'll be school and you gotta win, you gotta get good grades so you can keep on winning, as opposed to in community, if you're in a hut with your partner and your children and the roof needs fixing, it's not up to you to fix it. All men come and fix the roof because you go and fix someone else's roof. If food needs to be gathered for the thing, some men would fish, some men would hunt. You were all doing it for the sake of the tribe. But in our culture, in our system, you are alone. If you're in a company, you're climbing a ladder to get to the top. You're always having to be the best. We have lost in our current culture the respect and the admiration for the people that keep things going. If we had a whole society full of CEOs, it'd be one of the most disgusting societies to ever live in. But that's what's being pushed. Everyone's got to be CEO. If you're not sure, so you're CEO of your own company. It's like, what?
It sounds like we've isolated people and over celebrated individuality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's mm, led to a lack of accountability and a lack of safety and unknowing of how to actually, as you say, grow up or get it together.
Yeah.
And that then creates a distrust, perhaps an inherent one, between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
How can I trust you if
Mm-hmm.
you are in a safe space and you don't know how to be a safe space?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And it's interesting what that guy said, that what he desires is to, I think you said to, did you say to be trusted or to be
Women,
perceived as safe?
the two things from women. I mean, there was a list, but one of them,
Yeah,
the first one and the last one was for women to be friends with
to be
men.
friends.
I need
Yeah,
you to be my friend.
to not be my enemy.
Yeah, because we are,
And
you know.
right,
Mm.
and and how can we create that? How can we? And it's interesting, these conversations, because there's this desire and um, perhaps craving of the feminine to feel safe with men. Um, and then also what I feel like I'm seeing is, well, men don't feel safe because they don't feel like they can make mistakes.
Yes, that is so. Oh my God, you've just said the one thing out loud that I've been getting to.
Um,
Ask a man in relationship.
yeah.
A man always knows what he's done wrong. A fucking 100 times over. And just more to add measure, just so he doesn't forget. A man will do something wrong, he'll fuck up. Women, the other thing is women fuck up all the time. like, are you serious? We're human. But a man who fucks up, it's like the young boy. When a boy fucks up in the face of the feminine, and even like, take away the word fuck up, it doesn't have to be anything big. If a man makes a mistake, he will be reminded about that over and over and over again. If he does something right, right, thanks. It'll be mentioned once, minimally, in general terms. I hear this from my male clients all the time. It's what I've really learned, you know.
Hmm.
Unless the woman's done, not unless, like, women have their own work to do around being in the face of the masculine. But it's very common. Our brains are very critical. A woman's brain takes criticism, deals with criticism or looks for criticism in a different way that a man's brain does. So our brains are very different in that way as well. So what has also occurred is that we've placed, well, if we're going to go into, like, keep with the word safety, this is what monogamy has actually created immense amount of unsafety
Right.
because of pressure. Women, we now, if we look at a monogamous, okay, actually, it's not monogamous, monopoly. Most people call their relationships monogamous, and it's like, well, what agreements do you have? Your agreements are of others. They're not your agreements. You've agreed to a system. You've agreed to a religious belief. You've agreed to a societal belief. That's not your. You've taken those beliefs on. The true sense of monogamy, the agreement between two people. I've been in the two most fabulous monogamous relationships in my life because we both sat down at the beginning and made up agreement. What does our relationship look like?
Mm.
What's in it?
Right.
That's monogamy. Most people in monopoly, monopoly, I call it, it's like a monopoly game. You are living under the rules and the perceived rules and the assumption of rules and agreements that religion and a government has decided so they can keep you
Mm.
here. And we're just putting on these big parties and dresses, believing we're making free choices. And we're signing our name on a piece of paper. Like these vows. The only time people think of this stuff is their vows. And it's like, but where are your agreement? Like, what is the agreement of your relationship? So in that realm of monopoly, we're placing all of the pressure onto this, like coming from the female side, all of the pressure onto this man to provide everything for us. He's now under pressure to provide everything for the woman and the children. We disassociate ourselves from our tribe of women. When I say disassociate, we're not living with women. We live in the one house with this man. We're not living with other women that are taking care of the children as well, cooking as well. So then what happens is the man comes home to a very highly stressed environment. He's already been in one because he's got to provide everything. If there's, the fucking storms come and there's a leak in the house, it's up to him to fix it. There's no food on the table. It's up to him to hunt the food, get the food, make the money to get the food. The woman's at home alone, and she goes to work, comes home at home alone, raising children. We're not designed to do that. No child is designed to be raised by one woman and one man. So that is dangerous. It's dangerous for the heart. It's dangerous for our health. Hello. Everyone talks about modern society. We've never been so sick in human history. I don't think even the Black Plague was as dangerous to humanity as what all of our, heart disease, cancer, all of this stuff, all of our perceived ways that we live. We're so fucking ill, and it all comes from stress. So it's actually like to use, I've never used the word like that, but I like pushing the edge so far that people cringe and go, they're right. Let's be curious. Monopoly is dangerous. There's even these studies out that the most dangerous man to a woman is her partner.
Yeah, I can understand.
But the man is in a position where he's isolated, not raised in a community of men, so friends. And I've even witnessed with my son, he's like, he can't. I said, what do you speak? Men don't talk about this stuff amongst each other. They like just, it's like they have to learn to do this. Like men's circles are so important. I see it so often with my male clients where they don't have good friends. They don't have good hobbies outside of the relationship. So the man is also placing all of the, not the man is, many men place all of the pressure into the work and relationship. They're not out spending one weekend a month alone in the woods. They're not doing, they're not out doing martial arts, rolling with other men, being in other men's spaces. They don't have men's spaces that they're going to. Many men are in their 50s and 60s and don't have a group of men that they hang out with. They hang out with their wife. It's a lot of fucking pressure on the relationship to provide this community need. Same with women. They're cooking dinner every single night, and this is very quintessential. I know what I'm talking out loud, women cooking dinner, and I know people are going to go, rah. But this is like if we just keep things into the space of like, but a woman be in the kitchen cooking dinner every night for her partner and her kids, as opposed to doing that 2 or 3 times, or providing meals for other, like having other kids and other women around cooking, and also building business together, or also collecting together. It's like, the quintessential thing of like, oh, women love going shopping together. It's not really about the purchasing. It's about the movement and collecting and gathering with other women. We need it. And then we go home, we're alone with the man every night having dinner. We're meant to be eating food and creating food. Look at where the blue zones are in Italy and Greece and Costa Rica. Everyone's eating together.
Okay. So it sounds like in order to encourage safety for men and women, the encouragement of community plays a big part of that. And perhaps this idea of each seeing the other as a friend as opposed to an enemy. And that kind of, you mentioned it pretty much at the start, the woman's experience, or your experience of walking down the street and feeling endangered by half the population. And the thing that came to mind, I didn't say it at the time, is the flip perspective of that is I have to walk down the street being perceived as a threat simply because I have a penis. That's also not a fun experience.
No. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, being considered a threat for simply my gender. It's the other side of that coin.
Yeah. There's something really powerful I learned working with Alison Armstrong when you were asking like why is that, like why would men whistle at
Mm.
women and stuff. And I think we can tether the thread that this gentleman said, you know, he needs women to be his friend. And where boys are kind of raised to be really isolated and always know what
Mm.
to do. The feminine energy, so that's all, you know, we're talking about 3D experiences and concepts, yeah, well, not you know, realities of stuff. I mean, as I've said, it's like I don't walk at night. I'm very aware of possibilities, but looking a man, oh, this is, I started to say this, one of my deep practices is like when I pass a man is to really acknowledge him and look him in the eyes. So if a guy,
Mm.
you know, and this is what I love about the Mexican culture, because you can always tell when someone's here on a vacation, they don't answer back. They don't say good morning. I don't know if you noticed that there,
Yeah.
but it's like because I go to the Mirador every day, you go to the Malecon, and I do. If I'm walking and it's like, and I see something like, you know, I say buenos dias, buenas tardes, you know, say hello, and but look them in the eye, because that's another thing is like men are ignored like by many
Mm.
women. So if we're going to look at, okay, now the man side of it. So if we're looking at energetics, the feminine to the masculine, you know, we're beauty, we're chaos. Like this guy, when we asked what do you love about the women, he brought all this up. It's like he used the word drama, but not that we're dramatic and over drama. It's like the way that women are, like, and he said, your beauty, the way that you beautify everything you touch, you make a house a home. You see things that I can never see because you know so much, and like you have so much immensity to you. It's overwhelming.
Mhm.
This is coming out, these words coming out from, you know, men that are not even studying Alison Armstrong, that don't, never heard of David Data, that don't do this work. And this is what I love about these words that come out. So he's
Mhm.
speaking that. So this is what I learned from Alison. It's like, if, like for me, for example, going past a a construction site, what's happening in the man's system, and I have a very important example to this in Costa Rica years ago. You go past, the woman goes past, and like she's chaos. So you know, it's like the beauty, the chaos, the innate, the primal innate nature is to control chaos. Yeah, you got to control it. So one way, which doesn't feel good in our system, but what happens in the mind second is to control it, is to whistle or to say something. It's like, I'm going to get on top of you, not literally, energetically, because this is chaos. I can't handle it. You're too beautiful. The feminine is too much. It's like, oh my God, you know, here he is hammering, drilling. He's got other testosterone all around him. I'm just speaking of energetics here, so stick with
Yeah.
me. So
No, I'm with you.
okay. So
Yeah.
chaos. Yeah. So whistle. Now, a woman flips a finger, tells him to fuck off, rejection.
Hmm.
I can't practice this all the time. I used to practice this a lot, but I can't. As I get older, I'm getting exhausted, I have to say. It does get exhausting. And when I don't practice, all hell breaks loose. And there's times that I don't need to practice. Sometimes it's not fucking okay. Like pull your head in. Do not speak to me that way. Yeah. I'm not saying for every woman to do this all the time. But I've done it in Vancouver and in Costa Rica. I remember clearly because the energetics at the moment I can still feel in my system. I can feel this incredible, delicious energetic in my system. Just thinking about these two potent. I know it's happened many other times, but it's two important things. So I went past a construction site in Vancouver, North Van, going down because I'm meeting someone for lunch. Construction site, 3 guys, all of that. I just turned around, hand on the heart, and I looked directly into his eye. I went, good morning. Good morning, beautiful. I'm really sorry that I whistled at you. I said, thank you. He dropped back because he got acknowledged. I looked in the eye and I received him.
You
Now,
received him. Received him from an integrated, adult, healthy point, like
yeah.
essence. It wasn't met with, you know, unfriendliness. It was met with, I'm an integrated, sovereign adult, and I'm going to see you, and I'm going to ask for you to give me that back.
Yeah. And in that second, I'm also asking him to be accountable, because now
Right, exactly.
he's got direct line with me. Oh, now he's got oh, she's a real person. Because in that moment, I'm humanized. I'm like, oh, she's real. Oh,
Hmm.
now there's like, I've received him. Now, any woman listening to this, going, like, why do we have to do it? And I don't know why we have to do it. I don't have that answer. And I understand, because as I said, it's fucking exhausting always having to do that. And there's beautiful moments that you can. I want to give another example, because this other one's very important in the energetics afterwards. I was on a quad bike with my gorgeous friend. This is a German friend of mine. We were in Costa Rica, up in the Sahara. So dirt roads, two women on a bike, no helmets, long hair. She's got long, long blonde hair. She's driving. This man comes out of the mango field, mango orchard, machete, and I felt her body just go like this, because like there's two women on a bike. We're feeling really free, and now there's like felt like that. And he, and because the way he moved his body, because we had the engine, you can't hear him whistle or anything, but the way he like his body like both her and I, because we'd read the Queen's Code, both turned to him. She was driving, but I put my hand, I really love this, putting my hand on my heart, looked at him, and not just smiled at him and acknowledged him. Physically, to see his body go back, it was like incredible. Dropped down. He put his hand on his heart and like just nodded his head and went like this, like, thank you. Now we were going into town. When we got into town, there was dealing with heckling and whistling in town. He was in town. Yeah, he was in town. We never spoke to him, obviously, like in the thing we drove past. Later on, he was in town. Yeah, like we're talking half an hour. Guys were whistling. Do you know who told them off? The guy we acknowledged from the mango retreat. Now we've created safety, because I want to bring this in. Okay, 11 o'clock at night, I'm not going to turn around and try and look someone in the eye and create safety. I'm looking at where I can fucking get to and be next to someone else. I'm not willing.
May I challenge that?
Yeah.
If it's proven multiple times so powerful, why would you not? I know it's exhausting, or
Because
it
why
can be.
wouldn't I do it at 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night if someone's following me and I try to be friends with them?
If it's that powerful.
But someone who's following me 11, 1 o'clock at night is not the man that's just coming out of the orchard or the man that's busy. Someone who's following me, someone who's watching me, has a different intent than me just walking past a construction site ad hoc. I'm suddenly there. If I'm being followed at night and I'm having to keep an eye and I'm like looking at things, it's like nights are different, Ajin. I hear what you're saying.
Mm. Out of curiosity,
My life is
not
not
out of
worth it.
trying to. Okay. There's
Living
an
my life is
interesting.
not fucking worth it. I actually really like living. So I'm not going to do a fucking experiment at 1 o'clock in the morning.
That, I think that really speaks into it. It's that. Okay. Well, no, I genuinely think it does, because I feel like I'm hearing is those two anecdotes you shared. Thank you for sharing them.
Mm.
Wonderfully powerful. My takeaway from those is that when met with integrity, there is an invitation for it to, when offered integrity, there's an invitation to meet it. And for someone to be truly in their sovereign empowerment, it's kind of, it's like a call to action. It's like, oh, okay, this is how an adult acts. I can be this, I can meet you in that. In offering that to those men, you gave them an opportunity to embody their integrated masculine, to call them into their adult masculine. And that's so wonderfully empowering. And the thing is, yeah, it takes a lot of energy and consciousness to show up in that manner. So I can understand why it's tiring to need to do it continuously. And at night, even though it may be powerful, there's a risk, and it's not one that's worth exploring because it's not a safe enough container to actually figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. Um,
Can I
Super
just quickly
interesting.
bring two things in? Because as
Yeah,
hearing
go
you
for it.
speak.
Yeah, I'm aware of time.
Yeah,
I want
that's all
to
right.
not over monopolize you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I love these conversations. I want to express that not all men are dangerous. There's some fucking amazing men. Loads of fucking amazing men.
Mm,
I'm speaking on the generality that women are not safe in the world like men are. It's just a fact. A woman walking down the street at night has a different experience than a man walking down the street at night. It is just a
yes.
fact. And I'm not going to sit here and argue and try and, but
No.
it's just a fact. The other thing is when men are not raised in community, so many men are raised really well. And when we're talking about like, why, if the man's heckling, why does the woman have to turn around? Men raised in community that are raised accountable for other men. So for example, if you're on a construction site, like say you, like I would imagine if you were hanging out with a group of guys and a woman goes past and one of the guys heckles and you saw the woman brace and you see her put her head down, what would you say to the guy that just heckled her?
I mean, I know what I would like to say, I would say,
But would you
but
say?
I honestly don't know because I haven't been in that situation. I can only know what I would hope I would say. Um,
And that's exactly where it lies. You cannot give me a fuck yes. You don't know whether you're going to stand up to that man, and you don't know whether you hope. You hope you would. You haven't said to me, I would fucking let him know.
I can't give you a definitive because that would feel out of integrity.
I know. That's exactly that's my point. My
Right.
point is men are not raised to hold other men accountable. Men sit around. I've had these discussions with my son. He's also said the same thing. I'm like, are you fucking serious? You're going to witness a man make a woman uncomfortable?
Mm, I think there's a nuance there. It's, I know how I would like to respond, but in the moment I can't give you a definitive because
And this is how women walk in the world. We know that men don't know. We know that men don't have my backs. You just asked at the beginning of the call when I talked about the heckling, you said, why did other men not say anything? Here's the answer.
I think maybe a reframe of that because I can't speak in it feels out of integrity to give you a definitive of something I don't know the answer to. And that's the only reason I'm saying I'm not saying that. And I imagine that's true for your son as well. Like I can't give you a definitive answer to a question I don't know. That feels out of integrity. Because if I could just say, yeah, of course I would do that. And that may make you feel safe in my certainty. But if I don't know, then that feels like, well, I've lied to you in a way. Now, I would like to say that should I be in that situation, I have the conscious awareness and the moralistic integrity to call that man to attention and hold him accountable. And without being in that situation, it's it feels impossible to say. I think part of the conversation is why wouldn't I?
Mm.
That's the question. Rather than would you, I'd like to say yes. But if the question is, well, is there a reason you wouldn't? That for me is a more interesting question to ask for myself as well. The
Mm-hmm.
only reason I feel that I wouldn't is part of me would feel unsafe. And in that situation, I'm in the situation you are. I might be having a different experience, but there's a part of me going, it doesn't feel safe for me to call this man into integrity for whatever reason.
So
It's not
what is
it's not that I
unsafe?
don't want to, it's that for some reason a part of me doesn't feel safe in doing so.
And when you're saying you would not feel safe, what does that entail?
I imagine, and again, this is all speculative, but in a perfect scenario, well, in a perfect scenario, he wouldn't even do it. But in a less perfect scenario, we could go gradations of perfection. Most perfect, he wouldn't even do it. Slightly less perfect, you would be in integrity and be able to hold him to account. Slightly less perfect still, I would hold him to account. Slightly less perfect, even more so, is I would feel unsafe to hold him to account. And maybe that's because I feel physically
So
unsafe
that's what I was trying to
or
ask. Is it physical unsafety, retribution, having to deal with the conversation, him putting you down?
emotional unsafety.
Okay.
Yeah, it's again an infinite nuance to it. The only reason I can imagine I wouldn't do is because some part of me wouldn't feel safe to do it. And again, this is all theoretical, so who knows what that
Mm.
would be.
Mm.
In that instance, if it's someone that I'm working with, I would hope that I would have enough rapport with them to be able to communicate it in a way that it would be well received. Um, but that's the only
You know,
reason I can think of why I wouldn't, is an element of my safety and
hmm
whatever we want to ascribe to that: physical, um, emotional, energetic, job safety,
hmm
whatever.
hmm So, when I talked about the 4-hour ritual and all of the women,
Mm,
we're talking about what they need from the masculine.
mm-hmm,
Is that all men keep all women safe, that you don't just have to be having sex with us to be deemed to keep us safe, to stand up for us. Keep all women safe was one of the
mm-hmm.
hardest parts of, because that's also one thing. It's like we win safety, we gain safety from being, oh, well, he likes me, he will keep me safe, as opposed to women going around. It's like, yeah, our desirability equates to our safety.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. It's keeping, well, I mean, it's keeping all people safe, irrespective of whether,
Yeah.
I have a personal investment or not.
Mm.
Um, I would like to think that in holding that hypothetical man to account, I'm not just keeping you safe, I'm keeping him safe and the others around us. Because for me, being in sovereignty and in integrity is the safest thing
hmm
for everyone to be in sovereign integrity, because then it's for the healthiest, most beneficial outcome for all involved.
Mm.
Mm.
And this is where, okay, see, community keeps people. When you're saying the word sovereignty, that's autonomous. It's still like we're sovereign in our own being, but community keeps a
Mm.
community works together because we live in an isolated, egotistical
Yeah.
style living.
Mm.
People just go home alone. They're not accountable to anyone. That brings
Right.
into the thing of like the groups of men that have left their women behind, like mothers or wives behind, and the melting pot, the intensity of all of these different arenas and energetics that create these environments
Mm.
that are unsafe. It's the lack of community, the lack of feminine being involved in it, and yeah, so many things.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Thank
please.
you. Because I think you said you asked your son this as well,
Mm.
and his response wasn't definitive, if I understood correctly. And I'm curious if you asked him what was missing.
Oh, that question that I asked you.
Hmm.
Um, interesting enough, the answer coming like he wouldn't stand up to certain is because like it's not worth the worry. It's not worth him being unsafe as well.
I mean, yeah, if we want to take it all the way back to primal, I can't keep you safe if I'm dead.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So sometimes there is a battle where,
Mm-hmm.
that will be lost if
And you saying that statement like that out loud, that's a huge part of a young man's world right now. My young man's world.
mm. Because he sounds like very much a man of integrity, brought up well and
Mm.
integrated and healthy in his outlooks and how he
Mm.
carries himself in the world. And yet he wasn't
Mm.
able to give you that, which to me doesn't speak to a deficit. It speaks to, well, he knows something that I
Mm.
don't.
And his safety is pertained to men, not women. He's unsafe in front of other men, not other
Sure.
women. Which brings back to this thing is like where women walk in the world amongst half of the population. Not saying not half as dangerous at all, but like that's that thing where the masculine, the unintegrated, and I'm not going to use the word toxic because it's just like we created it.
So,
It's like I hate that word.
sure.
um,
Well, can I
yeah,
share can I share a thought there? Because,
yeah.
he's, and I feel like I fall into the category as well, is I will give you everything that I can, but I can't give you that definitive. And is that enough for you
Mm,
as a woman? Like, I will give you everything that I can, and is that enough? Even though it's not that definitive. Can you still be my friend?
mm.
Because that's the internal battle going on in us, or at least in
Mm.
me. I'll
Because what
give you
comes up for me is
everything.
like, I've just got to take, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to take care of it.
I'll
And
give you
that's coming,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah. But can
Everything
that be enough?
until the final, yeah. So, do you know, and I guess when I hear that word everything, it's like, well, you're not. It's like when someone says never, I will never let you down. It's like, bullshit, you will. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Well, I will
exactly.
allow.
And that's why I won't say yes. That's why I won't
Mm,
give a definitive yes, because to
mm,
me that's the equatable of never. Like
mm,
I'm not gonna put myself in that category because I can't be accountable for the unknown.
mhm,
And it would be out of integrity to give you a false sense of security that I can,
mm,
but I will give you everything that I've got up to that. And is
mm,
that enough? Like that's for me, that's what it comes back to.
mm,
It's
mm,
that's been my internal struggle is everything that I have to offer you enough?
mm,
Even though it's not, there's that 0.1% missing, I can't give you that definitive, that 100%. I can give you everything as close to it as I can get. And can you accept that from the
mm,
other end? Is that enough?
mm. It's such a great question.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can see, like I have tears in my eyes. Like when any man says, "Am I enough?" or it feels like whatever I've got, is it enough? It's so painful to receive it.
Mm. Yeah, it's painful to feel it because the other side of that question you ask is, you know, would you, can you tell me definitive? It's like I can't, and I would love to, but
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah.
Mm,
And then there's that, well, I guess I'm just not enough for you, or I'm never
mm,
gonna be enough.
mm.
And
That
that's
reminds
the
me of what I was sharing before. It's like, if a man does one thing wrong where he's held, he knows about it all the time. And all of the things he does right is like, yeah, that's all right. Thanks.
yeah.
Did you see the present I brought? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll open that later. Do you know what I mean? Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going on that journey. It was really interesting. I appreciate the time and the openness to curiosity and sharing all of that and getting
Mm.
to where we did. And so before we part ways, I ask if you have a one word or a one sentence takeaway from our conversation.
We are all here walking one another home. Can we just get home? I'm so tired. That's what it feels like, and I'm so fucking tired.
Is there an Uber that can help
Yeah,
us out?
I know. The
We're all
Uber,
here just waiting to Uber each other home.
we bring each other home. It's so interesting. And it's a beautiful reminder. I live here in Mexico and I always take in drivers. I don't know, about in drive as opposed to Uber.
No.
So you know how Uber gets tracked? I mean, InDrive is
Mm.
starting to be tracked too, but Uber's tracked and vetting. InDrive is the cash one. There it is in Mexico City, but it's very prominent here. I always take InDrive with the cash, so it's less safe. I'm always in InDrivers. I love them. So it's all the dichotomy. So that just came to me.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm always in an InDriver, which apparently is less safe.
I guess you're always safe then.
I always was, yeah, yeah. It's interesting how the conversation started, and where it goes and what's deeply within, but I'm always reminded it's like we are all here walking each other home,
Hmm.
you know.
And I think there's that can sometimes be forgotten in recognizing that the invitation to rise is also walking each other home.
Yeah, yeah.
I hear a lot of women that I've spoken to say, why should I be the one to have to do it? But it's like, well, what if it wasn't a chore? What if it was
I know.
your your gift? What if it was your privilege and your
Oh,
your
that's another rabbit hole to go down.
not to absolve responsibility,
No, no, no,
100%
no,
not.
no. I think the gift of the feminine is so profound, but we're not raised where there's enough space for that. We need
Mm,
to be in our
okay.
masculine all
Yeah,
the time. So we're in our masculine.
sure.
We're doing all of the masculine stuff, and now you
Yeah.
want us to also do the feminine stuff, while you just do the masculine. It's just
Well,
like our
this,
society needs to make more room for that.
well, I think this is also, we haven't really touched on it, but it's where other conversations went, is that, over the last however many years, women have been dipping into the masculine side, and I feel like now men are being invited into the feminine in the sense of, okay, how can you have emotional mastery as well as physical mastery?
Mhm.
Like this is where the gap is being invited to close, and because the feminine has perhaps even an innate proclivity towards emotional mastery, there's an invitation to see it as an invitation rather than a chore. If it is your gift, then
Mhm.
share it with us rather than
Mm.
chastising us for not being able
Yeah,
to
right.
have such proficiency in it yet.
It's the gift of the feminine to invite. It's the gift to
Yeah.
inspire. We
Hmm.
do go first in
Yes.
that area. Yeah, so we can go around in circles all the time and go, why do I have to do it? And it's kind of like going, well, why does a mango have that seed in the middle? We're gonna argue. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but I hear but it comes from an exhausted space because we're doing, we are doing everything in our worlds. We are, especially if you've got children. The feminine is, required to do it. We are required to have business and work and do all of these things as well as do, you know, in many situations. So I know where that exhaustion is coming from.
Mm.
My thing is like, we need more space in our culture and society where the feminine can be in their feminine, where we do in our lushness, like what this beautiful man was sharing, the dramaticness of the feminine, how we make more out of everything. Many women don't have the time to do that because we're doing.
Yeah.
So then it feels like a chore, and I think that's also one of the biggest grief. You know, it's a place of grief that it's a chore for the feminine to be her, to bring forth her gift.
Mm. And I guess there's the pressure for the masculine to be able to provide sufficiently so that a woman can do less and be more.
Well, as I said, in true polyamory, it wouldn't be you should have 3 men. Bring on polyamory. You want it? We must like, that's okay. She's here and I'm going to have 2 babies. We need 3 men. School support, financial support for this, food, and all of your other lovers come in and cook with her. That's true polyamory. I take my hat off anyone doing polyamory in this world. I'm like, especially when children, I think it's different when you're single. But if you've got children doing polyamory and you've only got one person taking care of, like the husband or the partner of the children, that's where the food and the shelter security is coming from. But you're sharing sexually, to that, like, whoa, that messes my brain.
It feels like it's missing half the benefit.
Yeah, it's like, I know, it's like we're just gonna have sex. That's it. Better be fucking good, because if that's all I'm getting out of this, better be fucking good.
That feels like that could be a whole other conversation we
The
could
whole
have.
other conversation, yeah. Come with gift basket. Where's the fruit? Where's the crackers? Where's the school fees for his kid being paid for? Like, where is all of that?
That is super interesting, actually. It's the over focus on the hedonistic nature of the exchange, which has become the dominance of it, and lost sight of the whole
The totality of
the
it.
totality of it. Thank you. Yeah.
It's a sharing culture, not just your genitals. Once again, we just keep placing sex in the corner, isolating sex instead of everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, let's have another conversation. I do need.
Yeah,
I want to have a little break before I have my client.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Melissa, for this call. It's
You.
been really interesting. Enjoyed our conversation and sharing ideas and touching on sensitive topics
Which is
and
fantastic. This is
esoteric ideas.
yes. And thank you. It's like I didn't notice because I don't know you so well, but your system handling the immensity of for 2 hours, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind of you to acknowledge.
I'm sitting here going, when is it going to just, okay, that's enough.
It's my masculine being able to contain it.
Yes, there's that container. All right,
Thank
love,
you.
thank you so much.
Speak to you